Okay, so hi everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to this session. Really excited to see you here. Thanks for taking time to come. My name is Daisy Isibor, and today I'll be sharing about stories from engineering and also in the process revealing some truths about being a minority in tech. Before I get started, I just want to share a little bit about my background, who I am, and what I've done. So I was born in Lagos, Nigeria, to a family of 6, me, 3 sisters, and my parents. Education-wise, I was, just an average student, and then eventually I started developing a lot of interest in math, and this is about junior high school. From there, I did a lot of inter-school math competitions and eventually did some national math competitions in Nigeria. And then suddenly, I don't even know what happened. We got this new teacher from Georgia, the country of Georgia in Nigeria, for whatever reason, teaching computer classes. And so he offered some after-school animation and robotics classes, and it was like, hey, who's interested? And all the boys just jumped like, yeah, we're gonna do robots and stuff. And I was like, doesn't sound fun to me, but whatever. So he did come up to me personally and said, hey, Daisy, would you like to join? And he's like, I'll go bring soda every class. And I was like, oh, soda sounds good. So I was like, I'm in. I just joined. Why not? So here's a picture of one of the sessions that we went to do. This is me at 12. Actually, this is in Turkey. Our teacher was so crazy that not only did he sign us up for local competitions, he signed us up for international ones. And so this is one of the hackathons that we qualified for, and we built this robot car that had a camera in it, and we hooked it up to that very chunky keyboard because we just wired everything in last minute during the hackathon. And we also collaborated with some of the students from Turkey. These are 2 girls that we worked with over there. And so yeah, we did the hackathon for about a week, and then we did some sightseeing. That's the teacher over there. We did some sightseeing around on the last day. We wore a Nigerian outfit to feel, just bring a little bit of home with us. And on the last day, we got a gold medal. So that's us being celebrated. It was super exciting for our project. And that was for me like the beginning of my journey into tech. Unfortunately for us, but great for the teacher, he got a PhD acceptance in the United States. So he left the school, and that was the end of this cool robotics project. So I kind of just went back into math, doing my own thing. And during my senior year of high school, so I was about 15 then, Nigeria had already the math competitions. They decided to sign up for the informatics ones, which is more of programming. So they did that the year before. I just didn't hear about it the first year. So in the second year, I decided to sign up and took all the exams and lots of rounds and drills. And so I made it to the final 4 then. And also, when we got into the final 4, they put us in a camp where we have to prepare for the international one. So we would be literally representing Nigeria across 100 countries. During the camp, it was super disappointing. We had teachers come in. They were teaching us math stuff again, matrices, not programming. Nobody was qualified to even teach us. So I just went online. That's what you do when you don't know what to do. I just Googled how to program. And the first thing I saw was C++. If you know how to program, you know that was a bad idea because I just tried to figure out C++ at 15, and it was incredibly hard. So whatever I could figure out, like a Hello World program or something, I started teaching my counterparts. So a few months later, we went to Canada for the finals internationally. There were, like I said, 100 countries represented. And this was the tech run day. So before the actual competition, they have everyone sit down and try out a few sample problems to see if they can get the system running. Because on the day of, we would sit for 5 hours straight, bathroom breaks included, but just solve problems and push it in and see if it passes your test. And then whoever has the highest score wins. I wish I had good news like the first time, But this is me trying to figure out what's going on, definitely struggling. Eventually, I got 0 points after 5 hours. Hello World was not enough to make it through this contest. So on the bright side, I started getting calls from people that they saw me on Canadian TV. And it's like, why am I on Canadian TV? Apparently, this was the first Black girl to be in this contest, and I was getting a lot of media coverage, but I didn't even know because I didn't have TV access. I was just there doing my own thing. So I got interviewed a few times, and it didn't make any sense. I got 0 points. Like, you can't feel any worse than that. Why you guys interviewed me? I had no idea. I was just 15. I didn't even notice the lack of diversity. Like, I just went there. I didn't even realize, like, this was such an undiverse group of students. But this was what was going on. So eventually, this was at University of Waterloo. The campus was amazing. I was super inspired to go to college for computer science. So I came to the US after and did a computer science bachelor's at Iowa State University. Actually, I started computer science and I graduated computer engineering because I really love like hands-on stuff, so I switched halfway. So that's my journey up until college. So this is my Microsoft journey. So I'm currently, as you can see, the latest update, a software engineer on the Microsoft Mixed Reality team. In 2012, I got an internship. Explorer internship is just a rotational internship at Microsoft. And then I decided that I wanted to be a software engineer because I tried different roles. So I came back as an intern again. That was also in Bing Search. And then after graduation, I was in Bing full-time. There I worked on knowledge graphs. I worked on data crawling on the web, some UX stuff, just a whole different group of projects. And then trying to go back to my roots in computer engineering, I found Microsoft's Mixed Reality project. It was just about, they just launched HoloLens recently, so I was like, oh, I want to get into this. So I'll show you a little bit about what HoloLens is. If you're not familiar, this is our staple mixed reality headset. In that picture, you can see two people collaborating. There's a hologram, which is kind of at scale, so you can see really the power of mixed reality there and, what it brings to the table. But this is just really high level. This is one scenario. We have a lot of scenarios. So I'll go deeper into one major scenario that I worked on in the last year for mixed reality. So one of the things I did is I made the mixed reality space speech enabled. So for example, this is something we call a cliff house. You could go in there, make it your own space. So this is just a hypothetical person watching Netflix in mixed reality. And so what we did is, like, if the person was gazing, so the dot is like the gaze indicator on it, and then they said bigger, voila, we made it bigger. It was super easy, but we just realized because mixed reality is so limited with typing and using mouses, voice is so important. So we did speech enable everything. You can do more things like say play, and then they can watch some scenes, and then when they say pause, pauses again. They say close, it disappears. So just enabling them to do everything smoothly in mixed reality. We also have some global commands that are not specific to an object. So when they say go to start, the classic Microsoft Start menu comes up, and we showed tooltips for people who don't know that speech is even there. So if you're hovering over something for more than half a second, we just suggest what you can say to make it work. So we also worked on dictation, and this is already a feature we had in Windows, so we brought that to mixed reality. If you have to put a lot of text, it's very painful in mixed reality, so dictation really made it easy. So all you had to say was start dictating and then say whatever you want. So if you said Amazon.com, it would load that into Edge, and then you can just browse from there. So that's just a very high-level scenario what I did in the last year for mixed reality. You might also know that we have HoloLens 2 out. This is not the key focus of my talk, but this is the next version of HoloLens that we're currently innovating on, and just wanted to show you guys. If you have questions about it later, you can find me around, but that's our next product. So the real thing that I came to talk about, I just wanted to give you my story, to give you an idea of how my perspectives about these truths came about. So before I start, I just want to highlight that these are the truths that only Daisy could have come up with because only her had these experiences. But there's still a lot that we can extrapolate from there. And also, I'm talking in the engineering side. However, if you're not in engineering, don't feel too bad. There's still a lot of things that I think you can learn and you can apply to your industry. So let's dive in. Truth number one, underrepresented groups have less access to knowledge of the tech industry. So, what does this mean for me? This was true for me because until my foreign teacher from Georgia, I didn't even know Georgia was a country at that time, until he came to the school and told me about computers, I would have never conceived that as a career option for myself, just never. And so this truth is in a lot of ways for minorities around the world. This is not just in a one country or one domain space. Around the world, they don't even have the knowledge to conceive this, and limits the opportunity for them. So for me, this is three ways that it was manifested. Discovery, like I said, there are few tech role models out there in so many parts of the world where minorities thrive. So it makes it almost impossible for you to envision something. It's hard to be what you haven't seen, right? So with a few exceptions, some people might come up with some, super career option for themselves, but in my neighborhood, the most popular thing to be was be a soccer star, because we had a great soccer team in Nigeria. We played football all around the world, so most kids just wanted to play soccer. Personally, I wanted to be an architect. So when I was 10, my parents bought a land and decided to build a property there from scratch. So watching my dad draw the plan, design where things was gonna be, made me excited, and I said, I wanna do this for life. So that just to show you, like, what I first thought I was gonna do was because of the exposure that I had. The second way is entering. So like I said, I eventually entered into the tech industry. I got an internship at Microsoft. But how did this affect me as well? So after entering, I still lacked a lot of knowledge. For example, I'm talking about wage gap and level gap. So when I was doing my internship, the internship ended, and people are talking about what next. Are you coming back? Are you leaving? And I observed a lot of my peers were talking about going to Facebook or Google. I'm like, why would you do that? I already love my job here. They're like, oh, you gotta do that. You have to try things. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess you try things just for the sake of it. But also something interesting they were doing was just interviewing also for the sake of it. Yeah, I'll just interview at 5 other companies. I'm like, why would you do that? You already have a job. And they're like, well, you have to negotiate. I was like, oh, I didn't know I could negotiate. Like, what's that talk about negotiation? So as people are doing this, right, people are negotiating, they're already starting at higher wages because they know it's a thing. I didn't even know it was a thing. My mom was like, you have a job in Microsoft. If they have you clean, just clean. If they have you do anything, just do. You have a job. Like, that was the perspective that the people of influence around me had. So I was confused, and this is something that I found other people also didn't know. And then thriving. So what these two things led to is I'm already getting the knowledge, but I still feel like I'm playing catch up because I'm learning and getting the knowledge at the same time. So now that I knew about negotiation, I never negotiated to start with, so I'm already behind. So I'm like, oh, I gotta get promoted, but I don't know how this promotion thing works. So wait, I gotta find mentors to tell me. So it's just like, it's very possible that when you don't have that tech knowledge, you just feel like you're constantly playing catch up. So now that I know better, what I try to do is, when I see people who are like me, I say, well, do you have a master's degree? And they're like, yeah. Why don't you tell your offer, tell whoever's giving you your offer that you want to negotiate a higher pay or higher starting level because you have this advanced degree? And believe me, a lot of students are like, I can do that? I'm like, yes, you can do that. Because nobody told me. So I feel the call to action here is like, no matter who you are, you don't have to be a minority. You just, very simple. You have knowledge in tech, share the knowledge, help people close these gaps, and level the field for everybody so that we can all, have a fair chance to be successful in technology. So that is truth one. Truth number two, non-technical skills are still undervalued in tech. So notice that I didn't say they are not valued at all. They are valued, they're just undervalued. I also notice that I said still. It means that there is still some progress going on, but there's still a gap to fill. So I see a lot of companies trying to bridge this gap in improving non-technical skills appreciation in the industry. But I think I like to see this as a little metaphor. So for me, this is a tech skill. It looks like this. It's shiny, it's fancy, you have it, like you want to get to this is where you want to be. You want to be this guy, this fancy thing. But this is who you are really. Like, you have no tech industry, and this is the kind of value that people look at non-technical skills. It's shiny, it works, it helps, it gets you there, it gets you doing all the things you want, but it's not a Ferrari, it's just not a Ferrari, you know? So this was like what came to my mind when I was thinking about undervaluing. It's not valued at all. This is what people see non-technical skills as, but this is really what it could be. Technical skills and non-technical skills alike are really important in pulling off a successful project. So if you've been in tech for a while, you will know that it takes more than just that technical skill. This is like one in many. I just have like a few of my top 5 skills that I can see really contributing into a project. And why does this even have to do with minority? You're like, what does this have to do with minority? Well, I'll tell you. So a lot of these skills, they come out of people for free. If you're really good at focusing on one of these, like if you say, I really want to improve my organization skills, you can. Like you can invest so much time and be really good at it. But because all of us, when you look around the room, we've come from different backgrounds. Some of us had so little that we had to get very creative in doing things. Some of us had maybe 10 siblings, so we had to be really organized because that's the only way we could survive in the chaos. Some of us had to resolve conflict all the time at home. Some of us had all this experience. As we grew up, we got it for free. So why don't we try to even leverage those things as they already are available in people to start with? So this is where diversity really comes in. So one thing that people have really started noticing is, this is Forbes actually headline saying that the useless known liberal arts degree has now become tech's hottest ticket. Now technology is looking for psychologists, looking for people with emotional intelligence, starting to value this so much. But this is still a struggle. That's why I said it's still undervalued and we have a lot of way to go. And before I bridge into the next truth, another non-technical skill, it could be technical, but mostly non-technical skill that diverse candidates face and present to companies or to their industry that sometimes get undervalued is their time. So you have time for work, you have time to, again, like I said, playing the catch-up game. But as a diverse candidate, you always feel like, well, I have to go to D&I conferences, right? Because, the team is expecting me to do that. I have to be the face of the team. When a diverse candidate is coming on the team, I'm gonna be the one that has to go sell that person to join the team. This may be just concepts in engineering, but I think that in some way, those things are not valued as much because at the end of the day, your review comes as an engineer and it's like, yeah, how much code did you write? What did you ship? And sometimes people forget all the other stuff that you do. So I want to share a conversation that can bridge this gap for you. This is real. That's not the guy. I just made him anonymous to protect him, but this is like a few weeks ago, this conversation. So this guy reached out to me. He said, hi, Daisy. I need your help to do on-site interviews. I know you're busy. Would you take a half day on Tuesday to do an interview? And I say, well, I'd love to, but I'm actually out of office that day, maybe another day. And he says, well, the day is fixed, and so he has to find someone else. And then he decides to give me more detail about what's going on. Unfortunately, his dev team is all male, mostly white, and he was hoping for some diversity on the interviewer side too. And I'm like, well, good luck next time. There's nothing I can do about that. It's not my fault, right, really? And what's so interesting is this guy's not even on my team. Like you can see, it says our dev, and that's his dev team. We don't even share a boss. A boss's boss, a boss's boss's boss. We don't share that. He's in Microsoft, all right? And so, but what things, I think he does have good intention. He is trying to get some diversity on his team. So this guy is just validating the extra work thing that I said. Like he's expecting me just to dash him half a day of my time. Why would I just give you half a day? My boss is still gonna expect me to finish all the work that I have that day, but hey, I'm diverse, I better just, be one Microsoft and be part of the diversity industry and then be expected to do that. Well, he definitely got one thing right. My third truth, diversity attract diversity. He definitely knew that. He knew that if he didn't have diversity on his interview, he would have a hard time bringing diversity into his team. So, because I love, making fun of my coworkers or people who humiliate themselves sometimes around me, I'll do another conversation. This one is also really recent. This one is like maybe less than 3 months ago. And somebody asked me, how many African American on your team? You might be like, that is such a very easy question. Like, What, but for me, this has like 20 different meanings in it. First of all, this person has over 200 direct reports. Their title is something above like partner level at the company, okay? And it seems that he's interested in diversity because he's asking about African Americans. But the answer, I know the answer to this question. He thinks the answer is 1 because he's looking at me thinking, there's at least you on the team. But the answer is 0 because I'm not African American. I'm African. I'm just African, period. And I'm glad I'm in Amsterdam because if you're black and you live here, you're not African American, you're black. But I know like there's a lot of story behind why a lot of Americans don't want to use the word black. That's their fault. But we cannot call everybody in the world African American. It's just not okay. And then on top of that, he asked me this number. So I told him, I corrected him, I gave him all the details, like, okay, it's just me at the end of the day. And he was definitely interested in a numbers game. And it was obvious. So this is just one question. And it had so many meaning into it. His follow-up question was, well, that other guy, his counterpart, another partner, how many African Americans does that guy have on the team? Believe me, this is real. This was the conversation. And you know what? He was right. I did know the answer. 2. The other guy, it was 2. What did he know? I don't know. What did he expect me to know? I don't know, but I knew. So that's like, maybe I'm just more sensitive because I'm part of the demographic, so that's why I somehow know that guy, I never worked with him. He's in computer vision. Like I told you, I work on speech. We're all in mixed reality, but he's in computer vision, and I knew the guy had 2. And then he said, well, that guy has more than we do, so we should fix that. And then he said something else. How can we get more of your friends on my team? Now let's unpack this one, because it has a lot of stuff too. Well, he implies that, well, my friends are African American, according to him, because if all my friends were white, then definitely that question doesn't even help him at all because his team is not even diverse. So he already implied that one. And then secondly, he implies my friends are in tech because he doesn't want a bartender friend of mine. Of course, that's not going to help him. He wants a tech friend. And then on top of that, he says we. So he's like, I expect you to join me in this opportunity to go gather your friends and bring them. So it's like, in my head, I'm thinking, sure, I can bring all my friends in this team if I had the position of a partner and you promoted me very quickly. I probably would be excited about getting them. But on a serious note, I just felt this is real and this is the kind of things that we face every day. And every day I get those kind of random questions all day, every day. If I was to go through all of that, you guys will be here for a long time. Anyway, what are the points that I want to bring across? I think it's really important to have diversity at every layer of the stack. Like this example, this guy just was thinking about the numbers. Those 2 in the other team, are they also developers like me? Are they managers? Are they partner level? I don't think he even seemed to care about that. But I think it's just not about the numbers. People need to see that you need to have diversity at every layer. And why is this important? Well, first of all, if you wanted to have a very diverse team, I haven't really done any study on how to, come across that. You can start from the top. Like we said, diversity attract diversity. So you can just get a diverse CVP or a very senior corporate vice president and just have the person bring their friends, and then your team will be diverse. Or you can hire a whole bunch of, hey, grab some black, some Hispanic, just throw them into the team. And hopefully if you grow them, they'll have some nice diversity throughout. But either way, maybe you could be doing both. Maybe you should just not even think that way to start with. But I think that this one ties back into the first truth that I shared about knowledge and sharing. Because when there's diversity at every layer, you can see like the possibility of like, oh, this guy, there's a black CEO, I can be that, or I'm a high school student, there is this black engineer, or I'm a Hispanic student, there is this, lady at my, fellowship or my community that's doing an engineering work, I can be her. So another reason why this is important is that decisions happen at every layer. So even if you saturate one layer with a lot of diversity, that doesn't mean your numbers can look really high, but it doesn't mean that you've actually done anything, really. It doesn't mean anything at all until you leverage it. So that brings to my last point. It's not enough to just hire for diversity. You have to leverage diversity. So say you get the numbers right, you spread them across the team, everything is looking good. You have to leverage what you've put together. And also, it's not even about race or gender or any kinds of specific metric at this point. It just means you already have a diverse team. If you're sitting here, you don't know it, you can count the numbers, you can say like the first guy, my team is mostly white, and oh man, I need diversity. No, you already have, are you even using the diversity that you have? You have people that come from different schools, different neighborhoods, different socioeconomic status, different, traditional or very core technology background. How are you leveraging them? So I'll go back to the very first story that I shared, right? My 12-year-old self and how I got invited into this group by a teacher. So it's interesting and important to know that I wasn't the only girl he invited. He didn't just say like, hey Daisy, join us, and that's it. He did know that it was important, so he reached out to several girls on the team. He even one time when I signed up said to me, I don't even want you to be the only girl here. So instead of saying, go bring your friends, he actually brought other girls to the team. Unfortunately, they all left. They didn't even last 2 days. I don't know why. They got scared or whatever. They just got distracted. I don't really know what's the reason. It was like different for each person. But at least I ended up there. So say he's done his best effort to get me in the team. Now he did something interesting. I had put a lot of effort into building a wall around myself. I was a 12-year-old that didn't want to talk to anybody. I put a lot of work into that. Like I would very much isolate myself intentionally. I love math, so I would hide under the mask if I'm solving math problems, or I would just stay in my shell. And this is me at 12, already presenting in Turkey to a whole bunch of people that I don't even know. How did I get there? How? And I asked myself the same thing. And it's all because somebody tried to leverage the diversity in me. That's it. That's the short answer. He went and pulled me out of that shell and always valued my opinion and said, well, this is what I want you guys to do, but what do you think? And he would ask that to everybody on the team. And then eventually I did get comfortable enough to share and to feel like I know the project really well and can describe what we're doing. So if you've made an effort to have diversity, it is not done until you leverage it. I want to encourage everyone, no matter what team you are, like just the team that you have right now, make it an effort to extract the goodness out of people. I'll share a little bit more why. So whenever I interview, I sometimes help my team interview candidates. They tell us, give them a programming question, make them code. What I found over time is I get more value out of knowing what kind of person that person is. Like you can code. There's 5 of us in the interview loop. One person can test the coding. But what I do is I ask the person, what is your story? Wow, you were 16. You left your country alone without your parents, went to a different continent, studied computer engineering, graduated summa cum laude, landed 2 internships, went to Bing, went to mixed reality, and you're interviewing on my team? I think there's a lot more I can get out of you than just, okay, convert a string into an array. What are the stuff that you had to go through that makes you who you are? Or you're a mom and you have 2 kids, but you're raising them by yourself. So you take 9 classes and you bartend sometimes, or you're a barista in the afternoon and you're doing all these things. And then you went to a boot camp and then you came trying to be an engineer. And then I asked you to create a string and then you completely didn't do it the way I wanted. Well, sorry, I don't want you on my team. Just didn't make the cut. Of course not. Those people went through struggles that even a computer algorithm cannot tell them this is how to solve it in this life. So they must have had something in their head going, cranking through those processes to come up with whatever they did, they ended up sitting right in front of you, interviewing for this position. How? There's so much more you can learn from a person by that. Anyways, if I want to go through just the truths one more time, I think it's important to just, because we've kind of jumped around, to have some takeaways from all these 4 truths. Number 1, make sure you bring somebody along. This is not like a one, job of the person in charge of the team. Everyone can start sharing the knowledge. Distribute the knowledge. You don't have to be in tech. Whatever you know, distribute it. If you heard somebody just got a position, Did you negotiate? Just ask them. And they might be like, oh, I didn't even know I could. Ask a question. Pull somebody under your wing. Don't just assume things. That can really help, number one. The knowledge can start getting spread. Also, help the companies, help the industry start valuing non-technical skills. Celebrate people's non-technical successes. Somebody comes up with, a very creative way to do something, really celebrate that, right? Or somebody solves a problem, somebody solves a conflict, somebody is emotionally intelligent. Like, I observed this coworker is not himself today. Maybe I should go talk to him. And he might be going through something that I don't know. Or she looks, really, really, disturbed. What's going on? But the thing, nobody notices that stuff. But that's really what helps people work together really well. And then try to attract diversity, not just as a numbers game, but spreading it as an influence. And then leverage the goodness of everybody. Don't just stop at numbers. Leverage whatever you have, consciously and intentionally. Make it an effort to do that. We have the banner with the 10 inclusive behavior. I really love that stuff. For me, it's like mantra. I go through it like, how am I going to leverage diversity today? Making it very intentional is just a huge step that you can make in joining the diversity and inclusion story of the industry. So if I'm going to summarize my entire presentation, if I summarize all of it, this is what I think I can say. That everybody has a role to play in the diversity and inclusion story. No matter where you're from, bring something that makes you unique to the table and bring out the best in others. So there is a point about you, but there is somebody next to you who also has something that maybe they cannot even see because they're so focused on what they're dealing with inside. So we are kind of helping each other as reflective mirrors, bounce out ideas, balance each other out, and that's how diversity and inclusion can come together. So for my last slide, this is me now. Just one of my coworkers did a demo. We were at a conference, and he just showed me what it is. And I'm just showing you guys, but I shared the story from me being 12. So this is already like plus more than a decade. I'm already aging myself now. And this is me just showing that, I wouldn't have been in this position if it wasn't for every of those single truths revealing itself to me. And so I'm glad to share with everyone that there is no one who is exempted from the diversity and inclusion story. Thank you. Thanks so much. So I intentionally made this talk not the full time. I don't believe in consuming all the 60 minutes of me just talking about myself. So I really want you guys to feel very comfortable. And one of the things I like to do is I like to disturb my coworkers' comfort zone. But as you can see, I humiliated a couple of them anonymously here. So I want you guys to feel really safe. Like, ask those hard questions. Use words like black. Don't be scared, Use the real word. Don't try and be, shady and stuff. So anyway, I'm here for the next 20 minutes or so, plus I'll be around the conference throughout the day. And we have the diversity and inclusion booth. Come check it out. We have like fancy pins that have different labels based on whatever you see yourself as. And I would like to open up for questions. It could be about my story, about any concept, or even if you have a particular situation you're struggling with at work, you can, find out how I would approach it. Maybe it might be the best or not. You can judge, but at least we all here can kind of see if we can hash it out. So, yeah, anyone brave enough to start?
Find your story somewhere online so I can show my daughter?
Well, maybe I should start blogging. I don't have it somewhere online. I mean, I would love to share the deck, and I think the presentation is being recorded, so maybe that would be a great way to have her watch. At least, and the good thing is she don't have to listen all the truths part that would be boring. She can just listen the first 10 minutes of me just sharing what I did in Nigeria. So that way, I would love to share. So if you want to grab me, I can send you the deck right away, but I can also get your contact and follow up with you on the recording when it's ready. You can find it too, right? I think everything will be available for you guys. Thanks. Yes?
Actually, how much support do you feel like from your superiors to your activities, like from your boss and etc. on the layers through
through your company?
So how much work do I do?
No, how much support do you receive from your boss, for example, or colleagues, like in this
How much suffering?
support?
Oh, support. Oh, wow. I receive a lot of support. Actually, I'm here because of the support. And honestly, it's taken me time to get to this point. Like I said, diversity attract diversity. It also means like when these things started becoming a priority to me, I only wanted to work for a boss that cares. So I've evolved through different managers over time. So my current leadership really encourages me to, I don't even mind taking those half days for the interviews to reach out to a diverse candidate or speak at a conference or even in my own way, try to, mentor new students. So I get a lot of support. Like, I think I'm sometimes it looks really generous because a lot of other engineers say, Daisy, how did you convince your manager to let you do this and do that? I get that a lot. Like, well, because they're just great and because, I show them the evidence. It's not just busy work. I try to bring that into the team in a very practical way. One practical way that I've done that recently is I really challenge the team to give feedback. So I realized that, again, like I said, I don't know why, I just like making people very uncomfortable. So one of the ways that I did that was like, let's actually give each other feedback. This is not like some anonymous in the company system write something down or send an email to the person's boss. Like, let's have a goal and let's talk to each other and give each other feedback. And it was so helpful. My manager actually had a meeting where he sat down for an hour with all of us and we went around giving him feedback. And it always starts like this: oh, you're a great manager. Everything's okay. Well, maybe you can do this a little bit better. But by the end of the meeting, people were like really challenging my manager. They were like, you need to be more assertive. You need to make a difference between giving a suggestion and telling us really if that's what needs to happen. Like people became much more comfortable in giving feedback. So I do get a lot of support in bringing the culture of diversity and inclusion to my team. Yeah, sure. Thanks for asking. Yes.
Do you have the feeling that you want to give something back to the people in Nigeria?
Absolutely.
Are you famous over there?
No. I am not famous yet. Well, sadly, I think people get more famous in Nigeria by doing other things than talk about diversity and inclusion. Maybe just start a movie or regular stuff that people do to get famous. But I do give back a lot. It's been my passion since I think I started with a few friends, a nonprofit. I think that was senior year of college. So I was already my final year at Iowa State. And we've had this nonprofit for 6 years. We actually are building an educational center right there in Lagos. It gets launched this summer. It's like, we wouldn't have dreamed this possible. It took us about fundraising over $100,000 to even have that running. So that is just one of the ways, but it's just so many, just whoever I can see who really wants to go in this space, I try to pull them. I try to give them all that knowledge. I have 2 younger sisters, so they were practice for me. It was easy for me to say, well, I didn't know that. I just came to the US by myself. I just came in, I was even 16. So I was learning as I went, but I'm like, you don't have to do that. You don't have to go through that all over again. This is how to negotiate. My sister is the older one. She's in Cummins Engineering Manufacturing right now. She's doing really great. So I'm glad I was able to influence that in her life and then encourage her to do the same for other people around. So the more you do, even though one person can spread the influence. So yeah, great question. I'm not famous, but I try to do what I can so far. Yeah. Any more questions? You can give feedback too. You can say, well, that made me uncomfortable what you said there, or that was good. Feel free. Like, this is just, I just want to make this time the best use for you guys, especially if you have interest in bringing diversity to your team, or if you feel like, I actually get a lot of my friends who are not from minority backgrounds talk to me a lot and say, well, I'm not a minority, but how do I even help? Like, what do I do? Like, and people always imply that I don't feel, people can imply that I'm not interested in this because I'm not, and I say to them, prove it. If you want to make people believe that you're interested, you have to prove, you have to give them an opportunity to not think that way. So one way that happened was, last Friday, just before I started traveling here, we had a minority student day at Microsoft for high schoolers. And we had 150 Black, Hispanic, and Asian high schoolers come, and we just talk about artificial intelligence. So what I did is I remember those white male coworkers who had told me, well, I want to help, but I just don't feel like it. I don't feel like people think I'm interested, so I never get the opportunity. So I said, why don't you come and stand there unashamed in front of a ton of Black kids, a ton of Hispanic kids, and do something. Share your story with them. Do not assume that because you're not like them that you cannot do anything. And it was amazing. I wish I could. I have a picture. I have pictures on my phone. It was amazing. Kids just want to learn. So I don't think there was no evidence that this kid was thinking, oh, that guy's white, I'm not gonna go talk to him. He was a designer. They were actually more interested in what he was doing than me because he knows all the art and cool stuff. He knows all the latest pop culture references. I didn't even know all of that, and that's what they're interested in. So he still brought his diversity into that space, although he was a little bit intimidated about not being a minority or, somebody from diverse background when you can see, because inside of you, there's a lot of diversity still in there that you can bring out. So I'll just keep talking if you guys have questions. I hope I can talk all day.
Go ahead.
Yeah, any other questions? Anyone was thinking anything? Yeah.
Any more embarrassing stories to share?
Oh my God. Okay, this is Shauna's favorite. Shout out to my friend Shauna. This is her favorite. Another embarrassing story. So, this is we have open office, so everyone talks about everything. And one time, I was talking to someone just casually about my sister being in town, my older sister, and throwing a baby shower for her. That was it. Conversation over, end of story. A few weeks later, somebody who used to be on my team left the team. He hadn't seen me for months, and we ran into each other at a cafe, and the first thing he said was, congratulations, I heard you're having a baby. I'm like, oh no, my career is ruined. But I was like, how did you know? Who told you that? Like, what's going on? He's like, I don't think I can tell you who told me because I told him it wasn't true, then he didn't want to tell me who told him. Now when I think about it, I should have just said, oh, thanks for the congratulations, who told you? And then I'll find out who did that, who just went behind my back and said something. But how did that come back? So I started debugging, like, who does he know? Who does he talk to? What's going on? But the sad thing is, when I started talking to people, I found out that a lot of people were thinking this in their head on my team. And I was looking at myself like, do I look fatter? What is going on? But the real truth is, it created so much bias that, well, she's pregnant. She's probably going on maternity leave soon. Let's not give her that project. It's like, so anyway, I got really upset about that rumor. And so I sent a broad email. I just put everybody I know, including my manager, into the email saying, Daisy is not pregnant. Title, exclamation, exclamation. And then I put in the body a description like, I was just having a baby shower for my sister, and I don't know who heard what and all that's going on. But, this is like the woman, this is not even me giving the Black side. This is the woman's side story of how this is real. This is real, guys. This is how it affects people. And then thankfully, my manager being really supportive and also kind of funny, he replied all and even added a bunch more people. I was like, first of all, guys, nobody hosts their own baby shower. So even if you heard that she's having a baby shower, you cannot assume it's her own because nobody even does that to start with. So he started because he's a dad, he has 3 kids. So he just went and started educating. Secondly, that is not okay to, assume that and then discuss it with other people that is not even related to the team and then somehow it's going to backfire. So he really had an education moment right there. So that answers also, I do have a lot of support and, thankfully, I don't feel it retaliated any further, but one more story for you since you asked. I told I just try to condense all of them because and sometimes I forget too. Sometimes I think I had one about mansplaining too that I just screenshotted and sent to a friend. So I had this coworker. I don't know if you guys know what mansplaining is. Anyone knows or doesn't know? So if you don't know, I know people might not want to say, I don't know. It's pretty much when a girl explains something and then a guy is there and re-explain it because maybe, I don't even know why, but it's just like, oh, let me really explain what she's trying to say. And this happens pretty often. So this is normally when the person is mansplaining to it's mansplaining to somebody else. But this was such an interesting one because, so the actual conversation was this: hey, XYZ person, white male coworker, there's this problem, and I think we should do this. It relates to your area, so this is what needs to happen. Do you have any other ideas or suggestions? Is this okay? Because it's going to affect things a little bit. And then he says, no, let's not do that. Let's do this, this, this. And I said, well, let's not do that because this. And he's like, oh, let's do this other thing. So he had a bunch of all different ideas in the middle. And I keep countering, like, I already thought about it. I found the issue. But I was like, well, thanks for the suggestion, but this is why we should not. And he agreed because he kept trying new ones. And then eventually he's like, oh, I have an idea. I'm already like, okay, what is it? And he wrote the exact idea I started to start with. And it was the same. That's why I have to screenshot it. Like, hey, everybody, this is not like fake. Somebody suddenly is trying to like, yeah, I got the idea. But that is did you forget that's what I actually messaged you about? That is what I think we should do. And you went around and around and around and ended up there. Another story for you. So I actually really like that guy. He's one of my favorite coworkers. I've worked a lot of times with him. He's really good. Like, I think the reason why I didn't even maybe put it up because I really respect him. But I had to call him and I told him, like, this is not okay. Like, did you go back and read it and see? And he was like, oh, well, he actually got a little bit defensive at first, but eventually we kind of I was like, okay, yeah, it was kind of similar to what you said, but it was literally the same thing. That's why I was like, I asked someone, look at it, isn't it the same? Yeah, it's the same. So, but as you hear these stories, hopefully it makes you more aware, and you guys in your day-to-day work can challenge people. I probably do have my blind spots that people can say, well, Daisy, maybe, like for me, like I said, I make people uncomfortable a lot, and so most of my feedback to me is, you shouldn't have done that. So I end up like, oh, I'm so sorry. I end up apologizing a lot of times because I make people uncomfortable, but it's for the greater cause. It's for the greater cause of diversity and inclusion. So, yeah. Any more questions? Yes.
Yeah. When it comes to promoting diversity, both on the ethnic and gender side in the company and trying to deal with issues, is education more important or formal policies and rules that you can push and people have to adhere to? Where's the balance there?
I see. Okay. In my experience, I think everyone should be educated because, to be honest, like I said, I really like that coworker who, just did that one last example. Like, he's one of my favorite. And educating him was helpful in opening that blind spot, and I think everyone should be educated in general. But I really like what you said about policy because I have seen there is so much power in policy that people don't really realize. So on my team, I'm part of the Diversity and Inclusion Board, V team. We just created that, and I was like, okay, I will join as a member because I don't have a lot of time. So I'll just sit in the meetings and see what I can contribute. And we found that holding, especially managers, so we don't have a lot of policy for peers because there's already HR policy, just don't do anything bad or weird or illegal to your coworkers. But other than that, the policies that we thought about was mostly on the manager level, and it really, really, because sometimes they say, yeah, because some people are in denial, so they think, I have a diverse and inclusion perspective. When I interview people, I'm inclusive. I ask them about themselves, about their background. They're in complete denial. And that's scary because if you don't hold them to a higher standard, they will think that way and then it wouldn't change. So what we started doing is we started working on what is an interviewing policy. So for example, we found that most people think that they are having a diverse and inclusive interview. So we said, you know what? We're going to have this policy where somebody will be shadowing you. Now there is somebody accountable in the room for what you really think you're doing is diverse and inclusion. And that made a whole difference. I had interviewers, this was my manager's manager who told me this. Actually, it wasn't there until then I validated it the second time myself, where there will be an interview. There was a person, guy or girl, it doesn't even matter, interviewing, took all these notes, all these insights. There's somebody shadowing, and they leave the room, and the candidate goes, and they had 2 different interviews. like two, like one is interviewing thinking, yeah, I'm doing all this, and the person's like, I'm hearing all these other things. And one will be like, this is a yes, and the other one will be like, this is a strong no. It's like, how did that happen? They were both in the same interview, and only one person was talking. It wasn't that both of them was even, talking at the same time and getting different views. And we couldn't have found out that except having that accountability partner as a policy in the interview. Say, you need a shadow, someone hold you accountable. Now you might think that doesn't scale. Now you're going to be wasting 2 engineering resources per interview. But then you have to ask yourself as a team, then what am I trying to get to? Is it worth the investment? Sure, it might be a waste, but if you really want great interviewing, it might be the price to pay. And you can time cap it. You can say, let's do this as a pilot for a few months, and let's get some insights and sharing, and then do the education part. We also did some policies regarding a minimum number of interviews, having a pre-interview meeting. So before you interview, all the people that you are interviewing, sit them in a room for 30 minutes and discuss your goals. Because otherwise, you just say, hey, like that person, like, hey, come give me a half hour of your day, and I go, but I don't know what they're trying to accomplish from this candidate, so I just do whatever I think is a good interview, then I give a feedback, and it may not even help that person, or it may not even help the team hire the best candidate, right? So that was one of the policies we did, yeah.
How many rounds of these interviews do you usually do, like in Microsoft?
It depends on the team, but I'm talking about those interviews where for one candidate, we have maybe 4 or 5 people, and then they kind of decide together. So this is usually the final round. So before you get into that stage, you may have gotten a phone screen before getting there. You may have had a formal interview in person first. You may have just been referred in because you already work in the company. But most people end up at the end of the day in a spot where the team wants to hire them and would have anywhere from 3 to 5, hopefully not more than 5, because I've been in teams that put like 7 people and I'm like, what else do you want from me? Kind of situation. So that was the kind of interview that I'm talking about. But Microsoft, generally, people get to that point from different ways. Yeah. So yeah, policy is important. And I think I really encourage it, especially if you want to hold people who are hiring accountable, people who are in leadership. And some people think policy is like having numbers, like, yeah, you need to have X percentage of your team diverse based on this X, Y, Z. But for me, that is still, numbers and not really, education. So you kind of balance it, but it helps. It gives you some direction, and people always think they're doing a good job, but the only way to show it is by actually forcing it. Like, why don't you really try it out? Like, really, really test it out, and you will see how surprised. Like, that interview once surprised me completely. Like, how the 2 people come out completely different background and completely different perspective from the same like conversation, word for word. So, great question. We have just the last few minutes, so if you have any more, feel free. No more questions? But I'll let you guys early in that case. You can have 5 more minutes of your life back that you can do whatever you want. I'll hang around here. You can chat. And then once the next speaker needs to come, then I'll go over. You might find me in the diversity and inclusion booth. We have these really cool buttons. Come check it out and talk to more people who are in this track. And thanks so much for coming. And I hope this was helpful. I hope that this can help your team move forward, more diverse and inclusive. So.
And please complete your session emails.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Please complete your session emails. Thank you.
Another great session happening at 2:10. It's a TED Talk speaker about happiness and mental health.
Yeah, I'm going to be here for that one. So you guys,
Come back.
it's a TED Talk. Like, you can't get more legit than that. I don't even have a TED Talk, and you guys came. So you want to come to that one? So yeah, thank you guys.